The Australian dingo. With his bright eyes and bushy tail, he may look like a family dog. But this is no pet. This wild dog is an apex predator. A hunter whose natural instinct to search for prey has given him a bad name. But this elusive wild dog also leads a surprising hidden life of family devotion and strictly enforced social rules. The dingo roams across Australia, a vast island continent, home to some of the planet's most unusual and fascinating animals. These are the secrets of the dingo. Built for hunting, dingoes are so adaptable they can survive in a variety of habitats, including mountains, deserts, and forests. From the sandy beaches of Fraser Island in northern Queensland to grasslands near Melbourne in South Australia and the woods of New South Wales. This is the story of 3 dingo families who've established their homes in very different habitats. They're closely monitored and given names by dingo conservationists. Dingoes form a distinct subspecies of wild dog, Canis lupus dingo. They're genetically closer to the Asian wolf than to the domestic dog, with flatter, broader skulls, longer, more pointed muzzles, longer canines, and a whole lot more attitude. Canis dingo is thought to have come to Australia with Asian seafarers between 3,500 and 5,000 years ago, or even earlier, sharing the land with Aboriginal tribes long before European settlers arrived. Dingoes hunt rabbits, rats, even kangaroos. But it's their hunting of domestic livestock that has brought them into conflict with farmers. Some states even require dingoes to be killed on sight. Dingo numbers are in rapid decline, and the purebred dingo is now considered a vulnerable species. In Victoria, a mostly temperate state in the southeast of Australia, dingoes Saxon and Petal are preparing for a big event, the birth of their puppies. When it comes to breeding, dingoes are different to domestic dogs. They're pair bonded, with Dad Saxon heavily involved in the arrival of his young. Saxon needs to find somewhere that will serve as a birthing den and cosy home for his mate and new puppies. He checks out a likely-looking hollow log. Dingoes will often reuse the homes of other animals, like rabbits or wombats. They're looking for a secure, protected base close to a water source, and they'll establish several dens in their home territory. If disturbed in one home, they'll move to another. This log seems to meet Saxon's criteria, which is lucky because Petal has been pregnant for 2 months and her due date is imminent. Petal instinctively knows when the pups are due and goes into labour. Pacing around, sitting down, and getting back up again and again. It's a sure sign it's nearly time for her puppies to make their big entrance. She's a placental mammal, so she gives birth to well-developed live young, and the normal litter size can range between 1 and 10 puppies, although 4 or 5 is more typical. It's an easy delivery for the first puppy. Petal cleans the placental sac from the newborn. Dad Saxon stands guard nearby. "20 minutes later, puppy number 2 is also welcomed into the world. Petal chews through the umbilical cord. Unlike domestic dogs, which can have 2 litters a year, dingoes only breed once, and always at the same time of year. Females become pregnant after the Australian fall equinox in March. This timing ensures that after weaning through the winter, the puppies will have plenty of prey available in the spring when they're ready to start hunting for themselves. Right now, Petal's puppies are tiny, weighing just a few ounces. They're blind and helpless and won't open their eyes for a couple of weeks. With just one chance to breed a year, it's important that Petal makes sure all her puppies survive. Saxon will have to wait until Petal's finished giving birth to find out how many puppies he's having. Further north in New South Wales are Comet and her mate Bomber. A pair bond like theirs usually lasts for life. Like wolves, dingoes have a defined social structure where only the top or alpha dogs have puppies. They also can live in packs like wolves, with up to 10 members, including mature adults of both sexes, extended family members, as well as last year's offspring. This alpha pair already has 4 healthy puppies. Last year's offspring, Tom and Harold, are still living with their parents, Comet and Bomber. They'll probably leave the family next year to live alone or join another pack. But for now, they're still learning from their parents. As both father and alpha male, Bomber has a big job. He must keep order in the ranks. Teach his puppies everything they need to survive. And protect his family from any other dingoes that want to take over his territory. Bomber recently took on a male from a neighbouring pack. He won the fight, but received this wound to his face. It's a small price to pay. If the invader had beaten Bomber, he would have killed all of Bomber's puppies so he could mate with Comet and repopulate the pack with his offspring. So the puppies are fortunate their dad was the victor. And they can play in the sunshine and suckle from Mum, Comet. She's had an average number of pups, but raising them would be almost impossible without Bomber's help. Unlike many animals, both the male and female dingoes share parental responsibilities. Dingo dads regurgitate food for their puppies once they start eating solids, help protect and care for them, and teach them everything they need to survive, right up until they're adults. After 7 weeks of suckling, the puppies are fat and flourishing. The first 4 weeks of their lives, they were suckling every few hours, but now they're starting to move towards weaning. They'll continue to take milk from their mum for around another 5 weeks, but they're also starting to eat solids. Soon, their parents will teach them how to find small food items like caterpillars and beetles, which will make them less reliant on mum and dad and be handy skills for when food is scarce in the winter. Now they're exploring their environment all the time, making regular forays out from their lair, a hollow log. Their older brother Harold greets their mum, Comet. And the puppies want to say hello too. But it seems that this makes Harold uneasy. Although these are his siblings, they're also the puppies of the alpha male and female, and he's very cautious around them. Harming them, even accidentally, could mean repercussions. As Comet returns, it's a good excuse to beat a hasty retreat. And for the puppies to return to suckling. At 12 months old, Tom and Harold must find their own food and regularly go out together on hunting expeditions. But they often end up down by the river, just relaxing and doing a bit of grooming. At a year old, they have all the right equipment for hunting. Sight, smell and hearing are all working at optimal levels and outstrip many of their prey animals' senses. They're already proficient in catching small prey like rabbits, bush rats and mice. But without experience, they don't have the confidence or skill level yet to bring down anything larger, like a wallaby or kangaroo. What they're working on at the moment is a very useful dingo trick, becoming invisible. Tom and Harold have the prevalent gingery tan dingo colouring, although some dingoes can be black, light cream or even black and tan. The classic tan coat has many advantages in the Australian landscape. Against the dry grasses of the pasture land, just lying down makes them very hard to see. Mastering the use of cover like bushes and undergrowth is a handy hunting strategy. They are predominantly pursuit hunters, but watching their prey's movements while undetected means they can track the direction of the animal and pick out a potential target. But when it comes to the actual pursuit, Tom and Harold still need training, and the best way to get that is to go hunting with their experienced dad, Bomber. As they meet up for the hunt, the three males make it evident from their body language that they have a clear understanding of the power structure here. Bomber's tail is carried high and is fully erect, forming almost a full circle, and his head is also high. Tom and Harold hold their tails and heads lower to show subordination to their dad and pack leader. With everyone assured of their place in the pecking order, they can set off. Bomber sizes up the landscape and sniffs the wind. Like a dog, his sense of smell is around 100 times keener than that of a human. His ears can rotate individually to pinpoint the exact position of his prey. He has 180-degree vision and can see movement up to 1 kilometre away. And to take down a bigger kill, dingoes work together. Dingoes can read each other's body language extremely well, and when they can see Bomber is ready, all three set off across the meadows. Today, they're targeting birds, a dingo's staple, especially the slower-moving, bigger birds like geese. But they'll go for whatever's around, like water birds. The coots on the water are too hard to reach. But the meadows are full of game birds. The chase is on. Like wolves, they use initial speed to try and catch their target, but then rely on their stamina and endurance to wear down and exhaust the prey until it can be dispatched by the pack. As pursuit specialists, they can reach speeds of 48 kilometres an hour, but this time it's no match for a pair of wings. Hunting is exhausting work. The three rest to recuperate their strength. Dingoes are opportunistic feeders, and as well as actively hunting food, they will eat whatever they can find, such as carrion, insects, lizards, even fruit. Still hungry, the threesome sets off to see what else they can find. Bomber and his family live near some rich pasture land, and it's not long before they catch the scent of a cattle herd. As the top Australian predators, dingoes in large packs are a threat to sheep and young cattle. And it's made them a target of hate for farmers. But dingoes aren't all bad news. They play a key role in keeping the kangaroo and rabbit populations down, which can mean more grass for livestock. And they prey on introduced feral animals like foxes, which can improve the survival of native species, including small marsupials. Dingoes hunt as a pack, and the only way they can bring down big game is to work cooperatively. Bomber sends son Tom in from one angle, while he and Harold flank. It's a classic pincer movement technique. But prey selection is a key part of a successful hunt. These cows are around 47 times the weight of Bomber and Harold. And one well-placed kick or horn stab could take them out. The dingoes look for the old, the weak, or the young. They've spotted a calf in the middle of the herd. Like many hunting animals, the dingo's prey drive is triggered by movement. The more agitated the cattle become, the more the dingoes become intent on following them. But they soon realise that 3 dingoes is nowhere near enough to bring down even a calf. The dingoes have to accept defeat. It's been an unsuccessful hunt, and Bomber is clearly upset about something. Harold has apparently stepped out of line. When dominance displays don't convince Harold who's boss, Bomber escalates to nipping. Harold's body language plainly states, "I submit." His lips are curled right back, exposing the long canines that differentiate him from the domestic dog. And his tail is right down between his legs. But he's still a little bit defiant. So Bomber needs to finish making his point and circles Harold until he stands down and gives way to his alpha. It's important for the cohesion of the group that Bomber's command is emphasised. Finally, Bomber is satisfied, but for today, the 2 part ways. Harold is left alone in the meadow. Unlike domestic dogs, dingoes rarely bark. Instead, they howl and yowl. This eerie, wolf-like noise is not completely understood by scientists. But it seems the significance of the howling changes according to the situation. They use it to locate other members of the pack, and even to warn neighbouring packs of their approach at a shared water source. This will minimise conflict between the packs. Unencumbered by his sons, Bomber sets out on one of his most important jobs as alpha male: territory marking. The chemical messages he leaves are full of information, most likely serving as a warning to any other dingo with thoughts of violating his borders. This is my territory. and I'm actively patrolling it. Stay out. Bombers found a patch of another animal's urine on the ground. This rolling may be to disguise his own smell while hunting, or perhaps to advertise where he's been to the rest of the pack. Territory marked, he can head back to find the others. On Fraser Island, Luke and Ivy are out scavenging. Lying just off the east coast of Australia, Fraser is the world's largest sand island. Over 1,600 square kilometres of isolated, pristine habitat. Its lakes and woods offer ideal homes to a colony of around 120 dingoes. One of the biggest threats to the future of the dingo is the crossbreeding or hybridisation that happens when they mate with domestic dogs. And so, the dingoes of Fraser Island are thought to be the most genetically pure due to their isolation from the mainland. Luke and Ivy are among the many dingoes who are tagged as part of a monitoring scheme. They live right next to the beach. It's a popular spot for fishermen, who often fillet their catch on the beach and bury the guts in the sand. Luke and Ivy mostly spend their time beachcombing for these hidden caches of fish entrails. A dingo day is broken down into around 65% activity and 35% resting. So while Luke takes a snooze, Ivy goes out scavenging. But even with her dingo supernose, she's not having much luck. In ideal conditions, she should eat around 7% of her body weight, about 1 kilo of food every day. She's finding a few small morsels, but nothing like enough. For now, she retires back to the tree line, away from the scalding heat of the beach. Her colouring soon makes her invisible as she merges into the undergrowth. In Victoria, new parents Saxon and Petal are taking their little family out for a morning stroll. Petal had 4 puppies, and all of them are strong and vigorous. Now 6 weeks old, the pups need to get used to travelling the terrain as well as familiarising themselves with the sights and smells of the great outdoors. Once the days get warmer, the puppies will need to start preparing for a more independent life. As apex predators, full-grown dingoes don't face many threats from other animals. But if the puppies wander too far from the pack, they could still make a tasty snack for a large bird of prey, like a kite or eagle. Mum and Dad must keep a watchful eye on all of them, but it's hard when, like many toddlers, wandering off at high speed is a speciality. One of the female puppies gets separated from the others. Overhead, a wedge-tailed eagle circles. It's easily powerful enough to make short work of a puppy. Saxon must find his puppy fast. He leaves the rest of the puppies with their mother and sets off to search for his missing little one. He scans the horizon. His nose is working overtime. But the little puppy is still oblivious to the danger she's in and is now quite far from the rest of the family. Saxon picks up her scent. He finds her. The little pup greets him. What looks like a kiss hello, however, is really a request for food. The little ones instinctively rise up and tap, sniff, and lick their parents' muzzles as a signal for their parents to produce the goods. But Saxon isn't obliging. Back in northern New South Wales, Mum Comet is at the family's base camp or lair, watching over her puppy's afternoon nap. They're 8 weeks old now, and already much more advanced. As well as gradually weaning them from milk to solids over the next few weeks, Comet also needs to make them more self-reliant. They must learn to be aware of danger, be able to find food and look after themselves. As summer approaches, the dingoes will move on from the log, and Comet needs to make sure that the pups can survive without her guidance and care. She leaves them alone for short periods to begin preparing them for adult life. As soon as the puppies wake up, they realise that neither Mum nor Dad are anywhere to be seen. The boldest puppy, Mojo, sets off to find Mum. He checks out the log, the fields, then goes even further. Mojo totters all the way down to the water's edge. The puddle of mud is a brief but welcome distraction. joins forces with his sister, who's looking for Mum too. But the only adult they can find is Big Brother Harold. He's just as uneasy around the puppies as ever. At just over a year old, Harold isn't long out of puppyhood himself. And like many big siblings, he's got no desire to hang out with the little ones. Finally, Comet returns with some food she's found. She's desperately thin after suckling 5 voracious puppies for 8 weeks and doesn't feel like sharing. But she needs much more than she's found. She's not been able to hunt properly for almost 2 months. It's been Bomber's job to feed her. And today, he's doing his job diligently. It's not unusual to come across dead animals or carrion in the Australian bush, and Bomber's found a real prize. A wallaby carcass. Comet greedily tucks in. Bomber takes a relaxed position to one side and allows his mate to eat. He knows now isn't the time to ask for a share. Wallaby is a common prey item for dingoes, and hungry Comet wants to keep this juicy dinner all to herself. Comet's able to slice through the wallaby's bone, sinew and toughest gristle with the greatest of ease. Her teeth are similar to that of a dog, although her canines are longer. At the back of her jaw, powerful carnassial teeth easily shear through flesh and bone. The puppies venture a move towards the meat. The 2 bravest puppies make another try for the carcass. Now Comet's got some down, she's prepared to tolerate them. Even at this young age, the puppies are finding out which of them is the more dominant. Little Mojo apparently isn't at the top of the pecking order. Bomber decides he's been patient enough. but Comet's having none of it. Bomber is forced to settle for a piece that she's discarded. Comet and the pups have made short work of the wallaby. They wash down their meal with a drink. Dingoes can go days without drinking. But when they have access to water, they like to drink between half a litre and a litre a day, depending on how hot it is. Time to settle down for a nap. On Fraser Island, Ivy and Luke are still hungry. Ivy has spent hours crisscrossing the beach looking for fishermen's cast-offs with very little to show for it. Now it's Luke's turn. He starts by looking for some crabs. The crustaceans bury themselves in holes in the sand. But there are none in evidence. And he doesn't find any buried fish guts either. Luke and Ivy aren't doing well going solo. Even with their super smell, keen vision and ears that can hear 4 times further than humans, not every hunt is going to be successful. But once they team up, and after an hour of searching together, they unearth a large stash of discarded fish. They tuck in, bones and all. Back in northern New South Wales, Bomber's off hunting again. Comet didn't leave much of the wallaby carcass for anyone else in the family, so he's still hungry. His hunting range is huge. Dingoes regularly travel around 40 kilometres a day. He investigates the forest. But his keen sense of smell has picked up a scent around a kilometre away. He follows the trail. Until he pinpoints the source of the smell inside a log. but it's proving difficult to get to. Bomber slowly demolishes the log. Digging. Scraping. Even biting off wood to get to his prize. A dead rabbit. Finally, he can enjoy a meal of his own. It's a just reward for such a diligent dad, who, belly full, returns to his mate and puppies. Whether they're scavenging for food like Luke and Ivy, or raising the next generation of puppies like Saxon and Petal, or teaching youngsters to hunt like Comet and Bomber, Australia's dingoes are fascinating canids. Their defined social structure, extraordinary communication skills, and remarkable devotion to their families reveals that dingoes are far more than ruthless predators, and that they lead rich and complex lives. They've been on Earth for millions of years. Crocodiles. The largest of all living reptiles, and among the most dangerous animals in Australia. Superbly adapted to aquatic life, crocodiles are formidable predators. With skull-crushing jaws and lightning speed. They're skilled hunters, fishermen, scavengers, and even cannibals. And they're survivors. Once rare and in decline, these powerful carnivores are in the ascendant once more. They dominate the waterways and wetlands of far north Australia, a vast island continent, home to some of the planet's most unusual and fascinating animals. These are the secrets of the crocodile. Far north Australia. The climate is tropical and features some of the most exotic landscapes in the country. The coastline is fractured by multiple river systems that snake their way towards the sea. In these brackish waters and along these wooded riverbanks lurks an awe-inspiring creature. The saltwater or estuarine crocodile. Known locally as salties, these are the country's largest land-based predators. Freshwater crocs also live here. They have narrower snouts better suited to catching the aquatic life they eat. They often live alongside the salties, in fresher waters further upstream. These amphibious reptiles are everywhere. Whether they're visible or not, if there's water in this part of Australia, crocs are there. Solitary and extremely aggressive. In rivers and creeks, mangrove swamps, waterholes, even the open sea. This is Boris, one of the crocodiles on this stretch of river named by researchers studying crocodile behaviour. He's a large salty, at around 5 metres long and weighing over 700 kilos. At this time of year, he spends time soaking up the sun at the water's edge. It's October and the dry season is drawing to a close. Up here in the far north, there are just two main seasons, the wet and the dry. When the rains come, everything will change and it will be time to mate. Boris is already moving in on Amber. At just over 3 metres, she's one of the largest females around. But there's a problem. Amber's in the territory of Ted, the dominant male of the area. Crocodiles have a fierce dominance hierarchy, and as top croc, one of Ted's privileges is to hold on to mating rights with any females on his patch. If Boris wants Amber, he'll have to get past Ted. Dominance is partially based on size, and at 5.3 metres long and weighing 800 kilos, Ted is the largest croc on this stretch of river. Most males are between 3 and 5 metres, but salties have been known to grow as long as 6.5 metres and weigh in at over 1,300 kilos. Size is also a marker of age, and Ted is thought to be an impressive 100 years old. Ted's gnarled and deformed head are evidence of years of battling with rival males. He's also blind and has lost many of his teeth. These fall out and grow again up to 45 times as the crocodile increases in size, but Ted's run out of replacements. Crocs swallow their prey whole, so he can still eat, but his hold on power may be starting to wane. When breeding season begins, Boris could challenge Ted for mating rights with Amber. In the meantime, Boris and the other crocodiles must get on with the everyday business of surviving. It's something they're perfectly adapted to do. Crocodiles were here long before the dinosaurs and have outlived them by millions of years. Crocodile fossils have been found dating as far back as 200 million years. And they appear in ancient Aboriginal rock art. Salties are found in parts of Southeast Asia and New Guinea too. In other parts of the world, their numbers are threatened. But they've been protected in Australia since the 1970s, which has led to a huge surge in their numbers. It's thought that the saltwater crocodile population now stands at between 150 and 200,000. It's been dry season now for over 5 months. There hasn't been rain in a long time. Waterholes are developing thick mud at their edges. Rivers are low. And animals coming down to the water's edge to drink can be excellent quarry for the stealthy crocodile. Salties are hypercarnivores, meaning their diet is more than 70% meat. They'll eat just about any animal they can catch and overpower, including fish, birds, small animals, even humans. Like all estuarine crocodiles, Boris is mostly nocturnal, but will hunt during the day when he gets a chance. He gets into position along the riverbank to watch for anything that comes within striking distance. Sweeps of his powerful tail propel him silently through the water. His short limbs with clawed, webbed feet are ideal for swimming. His eyes, ears and nostrils are located on top of his head, allowing him to lie low while keeping an eye on his prey. As well as a good sense of smell, he has sensory pits along his entire body which detect vibrations. Boris senses movement. He dives, keeping any exposure to the minimum. When Boris is underwater, his scales, known as osteoderms, create a low-pressure system around him, resulting in a countercurrent around his body. The water surface won't ripple as he swims up to his prey. He's invisible. The little moorhen in the reed beds is oblivious to his presence. But Boris is after a bigger prize. He moves on silently. An unsuspecting wallaby has come to the water to drink. Unaware of what may lurk nearby. A crocodile can lunge incredibly fast, using both feet and tail to propel himself from the water. Boris clamps the wallaby with his long, powerful jaws. A special valve at the back of his throat allows him to open his mouth to catch and hold prey under the water without any entering his throat. But to eat the wallaby, his head needs to be above water. A crocodile can eat an incredible 23% of its body weight in one go. It can secrete gastric acid faster than any other animal, liquefying bone matter in just a few hours. The only thing Boris can't digest is keratin, so he'll cough up the fur later. Anything he can't manage now, he'll conceal and return for snacks when he's hungry. While crocodiles are opportunistic hunters, it's harder for them to move around to other waterways during the dry season. This can limit their feeding options. But the drier, less humid weather allows the crocs to stock up on energy in other ways. From the sun. Saltwater and freshwater crocodiles are ectotherms, meaning they're cold-blooded. Unlike humans and other mammals, they're unable to internally regulate their body temperature. To keep warm, they need to sunbathe. They stay very still, and their metabolism shuts right down to conserve energy, whilst they absorb the sun's warmth. The scales on a crocodile's back act rather like their own solar panels. Tiny blood vessels carry blood right to the surface of the scales, where it's quickly warmed by the sun's rays. As the blood circulates, the heat is transferred to the rest of the body. This regular need for warmth explains why crocodiles are only suited to living in the tropics. Crocodiles don't need to expend any energy generating body heat, which is why they can go for long stretches without feeding. Basking to absorb heat takes up at least a few hours of each day, depending on the weather. Now at the end of the dry season, there's still plenty of sunshine. Crocodiles often like to sunbathe with their mouths open. It may show off this croc's superbly sharp teeth, but it's actually a way of helping him regulate his body temperature when it gets hotter. The Australian sun is fierce, and temperatures may rise still further when the wet season arrives. Like a panting dog, the crocodile produces saliva, which will cool him as it evaporates. But if his temperature rises above 35 degrees Celsius, he'll shoot back into the cool of the water. While Amber basks on the banks, she may look asleep, but she's actually always half awake. Crocodiles are able to shut down one side of their brains at a time while keeping one eye open. This is known as unihemispheric sleep. Scientists have discovered that crocodiles can deploy unilateral eye closure while dozing, enabling them to keep one eye out for potential threats or prey at all times. Crocodiles also have 3 eyelids, 2 ordinary ones made of keratin, and a third underneath which covers the eye sideways, called the nictitating membrane. This acts as a protective layer against detritus while underwater. As the dry season draws to a close, many crocodiles take to the water to make the most of an unusual feeding opportunity. The East Alligator River in the Northern Territory. It's 160 kilometres long and, despite its name, is full of crocodiles. 80 kilometres from the river's mouth is a causeway known as Cahill's Crossing. It's in Kakadu National Park, a popular tourist destination. Cars can only cross here when the river's lower in dry season. But at the end of the season, that changes. This year, the change of season coincides with the highest tide in weeks. And the crocodiles seem to know exactly when it's due. As the waters start rising, Boris, Amber, and numerous other crocodiles begin to appear. They converge on the area from all over the river system. It's not known precisely what triggers the crocs to arrive at the same time. They may have deeper communication abilities than are currently understood. Crocodiles have extraordinary powers of hearing. Their middle ear can detect sounds that are inaudible to the human ear. In between either side of their cranial plate and ears is a small muscular flap, which allows them to navigate magnetically, like birds. It's also known that crocs can track the migratory routes of their prey as the seasons change. The causeway usually prevents fish from migrating upstream. But as the spring tides boost the water levels in the river, they bring mullet, barramundi, and even turtles from downstream, attracted by the weed beds and nutrients of the fresher water. The arrival of the tide means that the river's flow switches direction to upstream, making movement easier for the fish as they travel towards the source. As the water levels steadily rise, the crossing is still used by road traffic. big males are first in line for the migrating fish feast and take up the best positions just over the causeway. One of the largest crocodiles here, a 4.3 metre male named Nigel, has been fitted with a GPS tracking device by scientists following his movements. Studies of crocodile navigation have found that when they're on the move, salties can travel great distances up and down the river systems and out to sea. Males of between 3 and 3.5 metres have been observed travelling furthest. They aren't big enough to have their own territories, but are large enough to defend themselves from sharks and other crocodiles. Nigel has been travelling 120 kilometres down the East Alligator River, into the sea and back up another river. Another study tracked a crocodile covering nearly 600 kilometres in less than a month. As the waters begin to engulf the causeway, motorists keen to make the crossing take greater risks. The crocodiles use the surge created by the cars to give them extra propulsion. Local police advise drivers to always give way to crocodiles. Salties may not actively hunt humans, but if one crosses their path, they're more than happy to take the opportunity. During the 1980s, a crocodile knocked a car off the crossing with its tail. And a fisherman was also taken by a crocodile here when he fell into the water. Over the past 45 years in Australia, there have been 99 crocodile attacks, 27 of them fatal. The fish are jumping. The crocodiles wait with open mouths, and their front limbs stretched out wide. It's a technique known as cross-posture fishing. The crocs have sensory receptors in their scales called ISOs, which are more sensitive than a human fingertip. Scientists believe that by holding their arms wide, the crocodiles create an arc with the receptors located around their jaws. This increases their ability to determine any movement around them. And as more and more fish cross the causeway, the better the opportunities for feasting. There are as many as 40 crocodiles at the crossing now. What makes this event so extraordinary is that it's the only time of year when big males like Boris will tolerate one another in such close proximity. Some experts believe the crocodiles may be cooperating, working together in close line formations to herd schools of fish so they can all feed. The blockade effect of the crocodiles makes it harder for the fish to get through. Further upstream, any fish that have made it past the big males come up against a second line of hungry jaws. Females like amber and the smaller males wait at a slight distance from the frontline feeders. When crocs are able to feast like this, they make the most of it. This meal can last them some time, and they may even store fish under rocks to eat later. The salties swallow the fish whole. The crocodiles' tongues don't move easily, so they manipulate the food into position for swallowing. But if a fish isn't pointing head first, the scales can get stuck in their throats. So this croc flips his fish like a pancake to get it the right way up. But sometimes a misjudged throw lets the fish make a lucky escape. After just 2 hours, the tidal waters start to recede. As quickly as they arrived, the crocodiles silently disappear and drift apart once again, to return to their more solitary existences, well stocked up for the season ahead. The wet season finally arrives. Humidity goes up. Storms erupt. And heavy rain falls in blasting showers. 90% of the entire annual rainfall will occur in the next 4 months. Away from the unusual feeding event, the crocs are back to their more typical hierarchy. Crocodile society is run on highly combative domination tactics. Head clashes will establish and reinforce dominance, and can even happen between females. Wet season means that the time is approaching for the crocodiles to mate. Ted may be old, but he's still the dominant crocodile here. Keeping his grip on the top spot is vital, as it means more chances to breed. As temperatures rise, intense courtship begins. A challenge for Boris, who has his sights set on Amber. Boris needs to broach Ted's territorial dominance to get her. crocodiles, body posture is a key means of communication. Boris approaches Amber. She raises her head, a sign of submission. These are the first overtures in crocodile courtship. Amber starts blowing bubbles in the water. This indicates that she's receptive. She makes encouraging noises with chirpy rasps from her nostrils. Boris starts to circle her, the next move in the ritual. But just as things are hotting up, Ted moves in, and Boris is forced to retreat. But Boris hasn't given up. Later that night, he uses the cover of darkness to continue wooing Amber, giving out deep, rasping noises of his own. They swim around together for hours before they eventually mate. Copulation can last up to 15 minutes and takes place while fully submerged. Ted's reign as the dominant male has been challenged. Amber's behaviour is not unusual. Females will often allow subordinate males to mate with them on the sly, to ensure all of their eggs are fertilised. Researchers analysing crocodile eggs have found that in some cases only a few belong to the dominant male. The next day, Ted's regime is threatened once more when large male Chopper makes his way into his territory. Saltwater crocodiles are keen ambush predators, but if a chance arises, they'll also scavenge. And the wet season presents new opportunities. As water levels fluctuate with the rain, the riverbanks become littered with all sorts of debris, including carrion. Domestic livestock can end up here, as well as wild animals, like this large feral pig. It may be in Ted's territory, but whoever gets to the carcass first will consider it theirs. When there's a ready food source like this, Chopper doesn't hold back. Salties don't mind whether food is fresh or rotting. The carcass quickly attracts other crocodiles. Soon, Ted, Boris, and several females are fighting it out for the free meal. Chopper keeps trying to oust Boris and Ted by smashing down onto their snouts. Chopper continues to dominate. He fights off the others and sticks close to the carcass, hissing. Crocodiles have no vocal cords. He makes these sounds by forcing air out of his nostrils. A study of the salty's bite found that theirs is the strongest of any creature in the world. With a maximum bite force of 281 kilos per square centimetre, their muscles are arranged for clamping down tightly. Once Chopper gets close enough to get his teeth around part of the pig, he needs to find a way of taking bites from it. His teeth interlock, so when they bite into an animal, it creates a serration. Better for gripping prey rather than for chewing. To shear meat off, he needs to shake. So to do that, he grips, rolls, and rips. This behaviour is often referred to as the death roll. A dominant male will let the females feed and chase away the smaller males. But Ted doesn't manage to see off Chopper. Chopper manages to drag most of the carcass away. Now it's clear that Ted's rule is on the decline. It's December, and Amber has produced a small clutch of 16 hard-shelled eggs. Females can lay up to 80 eggs in a season. She's scratched a nest almost a metre high, using vegetation and mud. The eggs will be incubated, both by heat generated from the rotting leaves and by solar radiation. Her nest is close to the water. She's placed it carefully. Too close and rising waters could flood the nest and kill the embryos. Amber will stay here day and night for the 3 months it takes for the eggs to hatch. She's fiercely protective. will react aggressively to defend her eggs against would-be predators like wild dogs, lizards, or feral pigs, as well as other crocodiles. For Amber's babies, the struggle for survival has begun. The exact timing of hatching will depend on an optimal temperature of 31 to 32 degrees. Any higher or lower, and the hatchlings could be deformed or die. It's estimated that up to 75% of eggs laid in a season won't hatch at all. When Amber's hatchlings emerge, they're highly vulnerable. Baby crocodiles are only 25 to 30 centimetres long at hatching, an easily edible snack for many predators. Carnivorous fish, like barramundi, will eat a young crocodile. While on the land, goanna lizards may prey on them. From the air, birds of prey, like the white-bellied sea eagle, can attack. Crocodile mothers protect their young during the first months of life, but as the young salty grows, an even greater threat will come from his own species. Big males like Ted or Boris will do anything they can to get rid of young rivals. And that extends to cannibalism. They'll eat both hatchlings and young juveniles if they get a chance. A dominant male can pick up the scent of smaller males in his territory and get rid of them. Young females can also be eaten, but have a better chance of being saved for future breeding. It's thought that only 1% of male hatchlings make it to adulthood. So the odds are that only 1 or 2 of Amber's hatchlings may reach maturity. If they do, there's a chance that they could still be alive 100 years from now. Long after their likely father, Ted or Boris, has departed. They could become the next alpha crocodiles, aiding the survival of their extraordinary species for many more generations to come.